The Committee on Public Safety comes to order. This is March 18th, 2025, 5 p.m. A roll call, please.
Councilor Dion.
Here.
Councilor Kilby.
Here.
Chair Hart.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings and transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. For the first on the agenda is a citizen's input. We have one, and it is, would you want to come down? Felicia? Welcome. Yep, you're in the right place.
You're in the right place.
Just state your name and address, that's fine.
Microphone's right there. Just bring it closer.
My name is Felicia Coimbra, and I live on 25 Railroad Avenue, Fall River.
Okay.
Railroad Avenue?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm here because I wanted questions, really, but I guess, I'll say the 3 questions. The noise, I live right next to the tracks, okay? And the train's gonna go by there, 70 times, I think?
I believe so. We're gonna,
Yeah,
yep,
so,
I see it, I
And,
know where it is.
okay,
Does she want to come down, Paul?
yeah, she can.
Yeah, you can come down if
Yeah.
you want,
This is,
absolutely. No, not yet, guys. Hello, just state your name and address.
Suzette Oliveira, 140 Sampson Avenue in Somerset. I'm just here to help my aunt.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
so this is what I wanted, right from day one. I wanted a wall, like you see on the highways and everything for the noise. But they said no. Well, they keep saying no. But this is, I'm questioning only because I want to see what can be done, because I really don't know who I can go talk to get these answers, okay? It's that, because the train goes by and my house shakes. My house was built years ago. It's made out of rock, not cement, blocks. So I wanted them to go in there and check out my foundation. Because can you imagine, like 15 or 20 years from now, the foundation starts cracking or whatever. Who's going to fix it? Not the railroad tracks. And they don't want to sign the paper, okay? They want us to sign a paper so we could put like a lead into our house, like people know that we signed off to the railroad tracks. Okay. Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry, interrupted my fault.
So that's one of the things, all right? Another thing is when they were building that railroad tracks, they ruined my fence. This was 5 years ago when they first started. So I want my fence done, okay? They only want to do half of the fence. What about the other half? How are they going to match? Is my house going to have, half one color, half of the other? It's in the front of the house. I don't think nobody would want that. And it wasn't my fault. It was the railroad tracks. And I talked to Jean Fox, and she says, well, that was a long time ago. Has nothing to do, we don't even know who the contractor or whatever, whoever did the first, started that project.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they go on the computer now. You find everything on the computer. You'll know who did it. So I want that done, but I want the whole fence,
Okay.
All
right, so I think, Felicia, what we can do is, as far as you contacting people, you can
Yeah.
contact any 3 of us on the
Okay.
Public Safety Committee, and I'll also have James, you can leave the number
Okay.
for James, and we can get in touch with you tomorrow
Okay.
and discuss it a little more in
Okay,
depth for you,
that's what I
okay?
want. I
Yep.
wanted to discuss it with a few people so I can ask my
Absolutely.
questions.
Yep, no, we will. We
Okay,
absolutely will with
thank you.
All right,
My house? Oh, 25 Railroad
this
Avenue,
one.
yeah.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank
Fine,
you.
yeah, Mrs. Fox is sitting right there. Dave, she gave me the number. So we're just talking about Aaron. 25
You know where the St. Vincent's is?
No, Cherise. It's right next door. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. For item number 2, can I get a motion to accept the minutes from September 4th of 2024?
Motion to accept minutes?
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3 is the resolution, the Committee on Public Safety convene with the police chief, fire chief, representative from the MBTA, and any other interested parties to discuss ongoing first responder training, public safety information, and general security plans related to the MBTA commuter rail zones. Why don't you come on down, folks?
We need one more chair. Yep. I can slide down. I can slide down if you want one more. Sure.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Why don't we just go around the table and have everybody introduce themselves?
Sure, I'm Jeff Bacon, Fire Chief.
Okay?
Beth Fonts, Acting Chief EMS.
J.T. Hoare, Deputy Chief, Fall River Police.
Richard Agia, EMA Director, Chief of Special Services.
Okay.
Jean Fox, South Coast Rail.
Okay, thank you. And again, thank you all for coming. I know that the rail will be active on the 24th, so it's a good time to meet, go over this with the citizens of Fall River. Hopefully, a lot of them are watching tonight. And I think, the concern has been the public safety in and around the railroad track. And I also, too, want to commend everybody, MBTA and other officials and Gene, for getting the word out digitally and online. There's been a voluminous amounts of documents that have been going to the public and explaining to everybody everything about the rail for our community, and I really appreciate that. I just think that it was a good thing maybe to meet here and just meet with the officials directly and go over the preparedness that I think we are ready to, we're prepared and ready to go, but I think I'd like the public to hear that. So having said that, I think what we'll do is we'll go around to the table, but with Gene, do you want to just start off and just let us know as far as everything is up and ready for the 24th? And
God willing.
yeah, okay.
This is we're getting ready for the 24th, and it's going to be quite a day. We're going to have a lot of dignitaries here. This is the largest.
Oh, just speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh. The largest expansion that the MBTA has done in decades. And it's extremely meaningful because the region has fought for decades to have it. And I'm not going to say it's been a flawless process. You can't build anything this large, this linear, without affecting people. But I think by and large, particularly in the city of Fall River, people have been understanding, worked with us. We've tried really hard to work with people. And throughout all the construction and then the build-up to revenue service, the focus has been on safety. It has been on getting the word out that people need to stay off the railroad tracks. Recreating there is no longer feasible. Was not appropriate in the past.
Correct.
But was significantly less dangerous than it currently is. Since last June 17th, when those test trains started screaming by, the landscape changed. And it's forever changed. People need to remember, too, that you see those tracks go down. Okay, I can walk right next to the tracks. Well, if there's a train that sneaks up on you, it overhangs several feet over the tracks. You're not safe, so stay away. That's been the message. We're in Durfee High School 3 days next week.
Okay, great.
Talking about safety. We've talked a lot about safety.
Yes, we have.
We've had, I think, incredibly wonderful participation by these two departments in our fire life safety meetings. The focus mostly there is on fire departments. We did the drills, one in Freetown and one in in New Bedford in November. So we had the hottest day of the year in Freetown, and then we had a rather chilly day in New Bedford. But it was mutual aid, got to work together. We got to see what worked, what didn't work. In advance of all of that, anybody who participated took the 2-hour video training, and we also offered a number of hands-on opportunities. We're going to do another one of those,
Okay.
April 5th and 6th. It will probably be in New Bedford. But I do know there have been discussions from your crew about trying to do something right here at Weaver's Cove.
Absolutely.
And Christian was all over that. So I think that's gonna be doable. We recognize that people have manpower limitations. We also recognize that departments have turnover. So what somebody learned last year, you've backfilled with somebody else this year. So in the future, we are gonna try to video this hands-on training too, so that at least you have a video, you can do a refresher every year. But I will say, I think it's gonna be, in many cases, a learning process for all of us. You and I had the discussion on the phone the other day.
Yep.
We don't really know what to expect. We've tried to be as forward-thinking as possible so that we don't have to be reactive. We've worked really, really closely with the fire department. We know where the access points are. We know where a lot of the problem areas are. We're not gonna find everything. But there is a heavy reliance on the local folks, first responders, public safety stepping up when and until there's a bigger MBTA presence in the area. So hopefully that'll happen.
Right.
We know there's room for it to happen. I guess it's a question of resources and will. You know, once they see how much activity we have here, it's a big area, they may revisit their thinking on that. But for a cruiser to come down from Dorchester, we talked about that, and it won't be quick. So,
This is why we spoke about, in 3 months, we should meet once again.
and
Public Safety
you
Committee.
brought that up.
I brought that up.
That was your brainchild.
Whereas in 3 months, we're gonna meet once again, to go over some of the issues that we may have.
Exactly.
Not only in Fall River, but Freetown, New Bedford,
Yeah, all of
everyone together. If we have any issues, how we're gonna address those issues. 3 months from the day that the train actually starts.
Exactly.
And, because I think, as Jean mentioned, there's gonna be some flaws, there's gonna be some problems,
Some hiccup.
and we're gonna have some situations, so I thought at the meeting, we should probably, once again, meet in 3 months, and then someone suggested, I forget who it was, we should meet maybe in another 6 months to see if we resolve those problems.
Exactly, and I do appreciate you saying that, because from our perspective, the mission and goal of the Fire Life Safety Committee was completed with Revenue Service. But the reality is, because this is new territory, we probably are gonna be a little more vigilant and wary, and we may find some things that we need to bring to the committee and
Yeah.
figure out a strategy to address them.
Excellent idea. I'm gonna, Michelle Dion first, and then Council Kilby. Go ahead, Councilor.
So have we, Fall River, participated in any of the trainings that were in those two
Very,
locations?
very much so. You brought that nice piece of
Yes.
equipment so I could cool off afterwards.
Yes,
So last month, my training division, in coordination with Keolis and MBTA, made mandatory that 2-hour training for familiarization and safety for all of the firefighters. So everyone in our department took that online 2-hour course. And because they took that, they're all eligible to participate in the April 5th and 6th training in New Bedford. As I understand today, I was speaking with my training chief, there are 10 spots available for that training, and he did assure me that it was going to be recorded, so that we're going to send the right people out there who can then train the members of our department at our layover yard when we do have access. It looks like most likely on the weekends, when they're running a limited schedule, is when it's going to be the most feasible for us to get hands-on at the layover yard, and we'll be able to, on duty, have our firefighters go down there and be trained by the members who have taken this training.
So do you feel that the equipment that we have and the manpower that you have is adequate for this extra? Because at this point, this is extra public safety we're
Yeah,
talking
so
about.
as far as the fire department is concerned, I'm looking long-term. I look at the train coming. I feel like what we have now is adequate as far as manpower goes, but I look further out into the development of that Route 79 corridor and look ahead and say, I don't know if the manpower I have is sufficient. I've been an advocate since I started that my firefighters need to be able to generate revenue for the city to be able to survive. And I've been pushing since my first interview with the city to have firefighters working on medical units as part of that. And I've discussed it with the previous EMS chiefs. And I think it's a direction that we have to head in for the benefit of the citizens and for the ability for the Fall River to have the fire department that we currently have, which I think we could be staffed higher now, but to protect the numbers that we have in the long run, especially with the expansion in the city.
Well, I know at a recent city council meeting, I had asked the question about, once the waterfront is developed, what our limitations were gonna be, and at that time you said there's a study being done.
Yeah, so.
Do you know when that's gonna be completed? 'Cause-
So, last week or the week before, we gave the company doing the study all of our run data for the last 5 years, and it's going to take them a while to compile all of that. And the reason that we did that was just because looking ahead, I know that we're going to be short, right? So I want to be able to show that quantitatively to prove that, listen, we're looking ahead and we're not going to have the manpower to pick up all of these calls or the station locations. It's going to be a pretty thorough study to look at the impact on that waterfront and on the train, that the train has on our responses.
Yeah, and overall, that's very important, because we need to be proactive and not reactive.
Exactly.
Because that could be a total disaster. Again, considering what that 79 corridor is gonna look like in addition to the train coming through.
Exactly.
So I think that's conversations that we need to have. You don't have an anticipated date when that study will be completed?
So I believe the contract said 6 to 8 weeks after he was provided with that data. So I'll call him tomorrow and get on him and see if he can lock down a date for it. I would like to get it before summer so that we can really have hard conversations and figure out where we need to go.
Okay, and I'd appreciate that, to bring it to the council so that the council can see what the recommendations are, and also to send it to my committee, Public Works and Transportation.
Absolutely.
So that we can have an in-depth conversation.
Yeah, I would like to prepare like a PowerPoint perhaps and come down and really go through the ins and outs of it and what we can do and what we need to do.
All right, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Deputy Chief Fonts, I'm sorry. Has EMS been able to also be involved in this process? And how do you feel in terms of you being stretched a little further than normal?
Right. So I'm relatively new, so I've been brought kind of up to speed on we have a logistical plan. I think that most of the people, I guess it's gonna be whether the patient is on the train, and if that's the case, will be at the depot, or if it's gonna be something that's kind of on the railway. I know that everybody who went through the initial training, at least from EMS, has kind of left the department. I wasn't aware that there was another training available, but I'm hoping that maybe if something else comes up, that we would be able to be invited so that I can get some of my current staffing available.
I certainly I would make sure that police and fire and EMA were included in anything that we do in the city moving forward, access to those trains. And, we've worked together with the deputy chief to come up with our responses and who should be responding. So every call on a train is going to be some sort of a technical rescue. Getting somebody out of the train becomes a difficult situation. So we'll work in conjunction with them with the apparatus and vehicles that we have for them to be able to do patient care and not have to worry about how they're going to get them out of the train or out of the area where the tracks are.
So EMS will be included in future
absolutely.
training?
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna negate that the EMS providers need the opportunity to have the training so they're aware of what the risks are for themselves. And I'm a big proponent of collaboration, and I think that EMS and police and fire should maybe at some point have some collaborative training. And if that's available, I know that I'd wanna make that sure that my people are involved in that training, because when there is an event, if anybody's injured, it is gonna involve EMS, right?
Correct.
So we're ready. We have more resources than we've had in the past, and I just want to ensure that I'm really pushing training, I'm pushing collaboration. I've talked to the chief about it. I think that we should do some inclusive training. We lost some of that with COVID. We lost some of that in-person training and being able to get together and being able to work out the logistics of it. So I feel that we'll do it, and again, like she said, there may be hiccups, right? But as long as we do what's in the best interest of the citizens and the patients that we're taking care of, that's what.
Well, you can only be proactive to a certain degree, and as we know, hindsight is 20/20, and sometimes until you get into a situation, you can't anticipate it, and so then the best thing then is to address it, correct it, and move on. I can say as a counselor that I want to see all four be collaborative, because, this is a community we need to protect. Public safety is public safety, and we need to all share in that. I'm also assuming we're going to be needing more patrols with the train being active?
So
So
obviously-
again, manpower, equipment, et cetera, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, you would treat the depot as essentially a new business opening there, so it attracts long-term parking of motor vehicles, potentially for several days, maybe weeks, depending on how long somebody's having a stint in a Boston stop, if you will. So obviously, we need to have some focus in the initial weeks to have focus on the cars that are there parked, making sure they're not being vandalized or broken into. But as far as what Jane said earlier, we don't know what to expect. It's going to be a kind of a learn environment until we get a call down there. So we've done some stuff. All of the dispatching in Fall River comes out of the police department, so our dispatchers are obviously going to be tasked with tracking where those calls are going to be tagged in. So we're creating specific sites in our RMS system so that we can easily pull statistics out to aid the fire department and EMS on like how much of a burden is coming with the added traffic, if you will, but also logistically, because if there's something on the rail that happens that's outside of the depot station or outside of the layover station, we need to know like where we're sending it. So we were talking internally in our department around that, because if a call came in that somebody was hit by a train up near the country club, we want to be able to find that later, a year later, to find out what kind of call is, or if we have ATVs that are normally commonly riding in that area between the country club and the Freetown station. That's kind of, we're going into that season where that recreational behavior has to kind of cease, or ultimately can't happen, because there's really not much room down there, and we'll be looking at a disaster. But from our standpoint, it's really tracking the data, making data-driven decisions on what we're doing. As far as added patrols, I think it's just going to be an initial added focus, and getting our officers aware of what our role is, because a lot of times we're the first ones there because we're constantly patrolling. How do we create a safe environment for the secondary units coming in for the medical response and obviously the technical rescue? So we have some documentation that's going out to our officers this week regarding railroad crossings, what the number is to call, and giving out the identification number to that dispatch, because then they're able to look right and see where that train is and shut the tracks down. That's our biggest role, is making sure that we do that. Last year, we had already put out some information to our dispatchers and our officers, but again, another refresher. We've gotten some stuff from Mass Coastal as well, as far as some pass-out cards to put in all the cruisers, so quick reference stuff. So really, it's going to be making a phone call either by the officer on scene or the dispatcher to alert the MBTA or Mass Coastal that there's an issue. The other issue that comes up too is the unhoused. They like to congregate near the tracks down Ponte Delgada Boulevard over there. So we have our engagement and enforcement team. They've been out there proactively kind of making contact with them in partnership with Mass Coastal to try to clear out. I think the chief mentioned when you did that rail ride that when you get to the slower area of the tracks is when it becomes more populated. We really can't have that down there. So we're trying to partner with Mass Coastal to clear out that. As far as MBTA giving us any type of aid, the MBTA police, right now that's not really in the logistics at all. They're going to respond obviously for any major thing, but it's going to be kind of keeping them informed of what's going on down here. So we're running concurrent jurisdiction, basically, similar to the state police, where the state police have jurisdiction all throughout Massachusetts. Something happens on the highway, we usually, punt to them. Something happens in the city, they can take it, but they typically sometimes punt to us. It's usually a discussion at the scene. When it comes to the railroad stuff, somebody could be pickpocketed on a train. They're not going to report it till they get to the Fall River Depot. Unfortunately, we'll have to do our best in figuring out where that happened and then report it accordingly and then forward it to MBTA police just so that they're aware. But I think those are the things that are going to fall on our hands where people end up here and then report crimes that may have happened on their train ride.
And you, sir,
Yes, ma'am.
you have a very complete, concise plan.
So, in emergency management, we have to mitigate before something should happen. So they require us to have plans in place for anything that should happen within the city. So I've been part of the committee, as Gene knows, for a couple of years now, Public Safety Committee, going to these meetings, being involved. So when I started going to these meetings, I started thinking about evacuation points to get into the railroad tracks. Fall River is very fortunate because we don't have any street crossings, so that's something we're very fortunate with. But we have, which is in here, I identified all the access points for the fire and police. We only have one gate to get in, and that's on Quarry Street on either side. And everything else, we have to probably cut the chain link fence to get in to the track.
That's not necessarily, so we've identified 6 points where we can have staging areas for apparatus or medical evacuation, and we have 6 other points with man gates that we can access the tracks. So those are in our SOP. I'm sorry if I didn't send that to you, but that was one of the concerns that we initially had that I spoke with Councilor Hart about, that we worked with MBTA. And MBTA also, it's a common lock. We were provided keys for those gates, and we're kind of controlling those keys because you cannot go through those gates until you have called dispatch and made sure that the trains have been halted on the tracks. So we determined that we should be the gatekeepers for that as the incident commanders at any scene that would be required to work on the tracks. And so we distributed those keys, and our SOP has those locations of those 12 gates. Councilor Hart and I also talked that perhaps we shouldn't be, advertising where those gates
Exactly.
are. So, but we are aware of them, and we have those locations and are ready to utilize them for, depending on the scale of the.
But is that information that you can share?
Oh, absolutely.
and-
His office is right next to mine. I
Yeah.
thought I had shared it with
No,
you.
when we first did this, you had access to by the chain link fence.
That's right.
That's the only
Right.
way we could get into it. Now,
Yeah.
if that was addition to all this, I was not aware of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I had sent you our SOP and,
No.
and we had discussed that, but.
Will you be sharing it with ENS?
Yeah, yeah, although, I mean, we will share, yeah, absolutely, we'll share it with you, but I think that based on our conversations with the train, they did want to limit the number of keys that were
I
available.
don't need a key, I
No.
just would like to have a copy.
Yeah, I think the
of this.
information
Yeah.
is very important.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I think, yeah,
Yep.
the director of each department.
Oh, yeah.
It needs to obviously have all pertinent information.
Yeah, 100%.
And be prepared, so that,
Yeah, 100%.
so yeah, if you can share that, that would be great.
Yeah, and,
Yep.
oh, go ahead, Michelle, I'm sorry.
I would,
But-
let him finish.
To go on, we established evacuation zones for all the north end. So if you have to evacuate from a certain area, certain street, what school you're going to go to. So all this is in the East End plan that will be sent to MEMA, and that's in the city emergency response plan. We also had to identify for MEMA, if we need additional resources, how that would happen, the ambulance task force, police task force, Bristol County task force. So we had to put that in the plan as well, because they require that. But everything, well, except for those additional gates to get in, is in the plan, so I'll have to add that in here as well, which I was not aware of. I thought we just had to go through the gated areas, the fenced areas. Where are those gated areas?
I'll
That's
share
what
the
he
list
doesn't
with you
want to
tomorrow.
publicly
Okay.
disclose.
Okay.
I think what you were talking about, remember we had the derailment a while back?
Yes,
Mass coastal derailment in that area, big slope, only way to get down there was through the chain link.
Mhm.
And Ryan Caholen said, cut the fence.
cut the fence.
If you have to get there,
Right.
cut the fence. Don't worry about that, don't worry about a workaround. If you have an emergency, cut the fence.
Mhm. Well, yeah, and that's when that's probably where that came from.
That's
Yeah.
exactly where it came from.
Yeah, and actually, you were the one that spurred my interest in getting the gates done, right? Because we talked the first meeting we went to.
Yeah, there
and
was no gates at
We
all.
decided that cutting the fence was gonna be too long of a delay if somebody needed help on the tracks, and Keolis and MBTA were very good about satisfying that demand for us. So.
I
With
think
that-
public communication works well, right?
Trying.
Now that we know.
Okay, with that, I yield. Thank you.
And before I get to Councilor Kilby, I just wanted what you were talking about, Chief, about the points of entry and the gates.
Yes.
And how important those were to me and the other committee members, because that's the bread and butter right there. We need absolute access to anywhere where there's an incident. So I'm glad that that's gotten resolved and it's embedded, and so it's
Yeah,
ready to go.
to echo what Chief Aguirre said, I would take the 0 grade level crossings with the limited access points for us over the 13 grade level crossings that Freetown has.
Yep.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I just think we're gonna have a lot less issues because
Right.
of that. I can also add to you that the Bristol County Fire Chiefs and the communities that are along the rail, we meet monthly. And in those meetings, we discuss the rail and the resources. We have a shared resource list so that if there is a major event, we know who has what resources available. And MBTA did give us a grant, had a large grant for all of the communities along the rail in Bristol County. And Fall River and New Bedford got a lot of the extrication equipment, including airbags that can lift the train if they need to cutting tools that can cut tracks. And because we have the largest on-duty complement of firefighters, we got a lion's share of that technical equipment and are ready to respond to any of the local communities in the event of anything happening on the tracks. So.
And just what JT was talking about, and Gene, before I go to Council Kilby, how prevalent will the MBTA police be in the beginning?
So that is what we're not sure of.
Okay.
Which is why another reason to have that meeting, but also to maintain communication here. We had a conversation, we're gonna make it clear, and we have been, whenever there's any incident, reportable incident, the T police are informed.
Mhm.
And they will do their level best for certainly anything serious, super serious, to get here. But the closest place is Dorchester,
Okay,
which isn't quick, unless we're joking, maybe they have a helicopter.
right.
But, even that these days, who knows? So what we're looking at and what we need to do is amass the data. Where are things happening, what kinds of things are happening, and I think that will help them figure out what is the best course of action for them. There was talk a while ago about actually having a separate annex somewhere in the region. That hasn't advanced. The
Okay.
train came a little faster than they thought it was going to, but I do know that if we continue to collect the data and actually parse it and share it with them, and they see what's going on, that will help inform some sort of a decision.
Okay, thank you. Council Kilby?
Yes, well, my questions really have been asked in terms of support from the MTA. And I was going to similarly ask questions with regard to, all of the different community leaders in public safety. Ms. Fox, congratulations to you. I mean, you've been,
It was a
for many, many years.
long journey.
You've been working on this project, so I mean, it's probably a real big sense of fulfillment to you. And could you, for the people who are watching, hopefully many people are watching the meeting, what exactly is your role now?
It's evolved. I was the project manager when we were going through the design engineering and the permitting at MassDOT, and then when we got the go-ahead and the bond bill was signed and there was funding, it moved into construction at the MBTA, and that was in 15, 16. And then I switched over, still as a MassDOT employee, but as the project's director of community engagement.
So you're employed by the train?
I'm still DOT. I'm still DOT.
Oh, Department of Transportation, okay. All right, in terms of the police department, there used to be, I don't know if there still is, a homeless camp right near O'Connell Boatyard. I mean, you're familiar, right? I mean, they would actually build shanties and almost like a Hooverville. It's been there for many years. First, does it still exist?
I don't believe it's as established as it once was. I think we're getting a lot of transient movement over there.
Because that's right there, right?
It is,
That's
yeah.
right on.
That was
Within-
under construction
within
for a long
50
time.
yards.
Yeah, I think there was a significant amount of construction to redo that overpass for the train,
Yeah.
and I think that amount of activity down there kind of eradicated what was a camp. But we have our teams out there just touching base. Obviously, Ponte Delgado. We're going to the areas that there is concerns. We obviously had some issues down there, like the Turner Street area down behind Executive Plaza. People on the tracks. There were several times we had some vandalism calls where people were on the tracks throwing stuff onto the cars below. That's been subsided. Obviously, there's no real trend to that. It's just sometimes it's juveniles maybe getting into mischief. But our big thing is making sure that the safety message is out there to get off the tracks. And I shared this with Gene last week when we spoke, is that the residents of Fall River are watching that train scream by and they almost still don't believe that it actually is happening.
Oh, yeah. May I stop you there? It's definitely going to be a cultural shock,
Sure.
so to speak,
Of course.
for a lot of people.
Correct.
And including myself.
Right.
I mean, I love hearing the train whistle from where I live. I do love that, but I'm sympathetic to the individuals who
course.
came down. Literally, the train is right behind their house.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
There's going to be, and I'm glad you were very transparent, stating that there is going to be hiccups, because let's not fool ourselves, there is. But we're not the first community, we were chatting earlier, we're not the first community to get the train.
No, not at
You
all.
know,
And I think
so
there's
this is not-
similarities too, like Worcester, they're far away from
Yeah,
Boston,
so-
Lowell.
Yeah.
So we have partners in those agencies to kind of uncover their pain points too,
Yeah.
what they have with the coverage for the MBTA police. We're going to work with them as a partner law enforcement agency regardless. But first and foremost, we're still going to respond. We're still going to do what we need to do. That's not the citizens' fault of figuring out jurisdiction. It's really on us, but we'll make sure the service level remains the same.
And it's going to be a wake-up call for us elected officials as well. Our budget process starts very, very soon. So with all this new infrastructure and transportation coming in, and all that comes along with that, there has to be a key focus in these departments. There has to be. So, I mean, the roles are going to change, the duties are going to change, and we have to adapt to it. And I'm so happy this has finally come. It's definitely going to be a great benefit to our community because transportation is a key to everything, to everything. And it's going to be a wake-up call to not only the residents, but to all of us, the new dynamic that is happening. So, but all the questions I was going to ask have been asked.
Yeah, I think, I'm okay with the questions that have been asked as well, but, I mean, is there any kind of, maybe Gene, just to end this particular portion of the meeting, what's the message to the community of Greater Fall River as far as the public safety goes, and the excitement around it is very important to us, but also too that it's a locomotive. It's speeding through. It's going to be speeding through the city, and maybe even shed some light on how long does something like that size train take to stop?
Yeah, a train, well, this is a consist of 5 coaches and a locomotive, right? And if it's going 55 miles an hour, it takes a mile or 18 football fields to stop.
Right.
And they cannot turn. And you standing on tracks will not necessarily be able to discern the direction the train is traveling in. So, because the continuously welded rail has changed the clickety-clack that we used to hear with the 10-mile-an-hour freight
Yep.
to something that really kind of blends in until it's on top of you. So, my message is, yes, I am very excited about this, and we've worked hard on this in the city of Fall River. All the elected officials, a lot of residents have worked hard on this, come to all the meetings, wrote the letters, did what needed to be done, and now we need to get that message out that now you need to stay safe. You're very fortunate you don't have grade crossings, because those are
Absolutely.
bane of my existence right now.
Yeah, Bridgewater, we have one up there when yeah.
But you have narrow right-of-way, and you do have points where we've seen some not-so-good behavior that's also dangerous. So we want to continue to echo that. I'm going to continue to work with kids. We have the videos online we can show kids anytime. In fact, a lot of material from my website has been adopted by the T for all commuter rail. So there's some good safety messaging up there for anybody. So I just want people to stay away from the tracks, take advantage of this new piece of transportation that we've worked so hard for. And I want to couple that with the Boulevard project, because that's also going to be transformational.
Right.
It's going to be economic development to beat the band in Fall
Yeah,
River.
exactly.
As long as you maintain
on the speed,
order.
On the speed point, yeah, the speed point, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So that when it approaches the city limit, the city
Yep.
border, so what does it enter at speed? Does it enter,
There are sections where it can go up to almost 80 miles an hour, 79 miles per hour.
do you know, with
maximum.
entry, when it enters a population?
You know, when it's coming out of, it doesn't matter where it's entering. If there are grade crossings, it's gonna go, if it can,
Okay.
right? So, where you see acceleration, deceleration is mostly it's starting and stopping points, so
Yeah.
station to station. So for example, from the depot to the Freetown station, they might get up to 60, potentially a little bit more. There are certainly legs of the corridor where they're gonna hit those speeds, and they already have during testing. They had to do testing at 79 miles an hour at most of the crossings. So yeah, they scream through.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So if I can just offer
Sure.
one thing. So through the meetings that we've had, Operation Lifesaver.
That's me, I'm a volunteer, yep.
So it's an excellent resource. You can look it up online. Just Google
Sure.
Operation Lifesaver. They have some really great materials and fascinating stuff on there about the train. And two things that stood out to me in the last couple weeks when they released the schedule, it's feasible that between Monday and Friday, every 30 minutes, there will be a train on the track somewhere, an MBTA train on the track somewhere in Fall River, and that doesn't discount the freight trains. Those will also be operating. And just this past Saturday, I was down Saturday morning near Weaver's Cove, and I had the opportunity to hear the train come through. And although I've been to all these meetings and they've told me you won't hear it, I'm like, you're gonna hear it. I was standing there and it sounded like a gust of wind was coming through the trees.
I agree.
And then it just, whoo, it went by, had to be doing 50 miles an hour. And you wouldn't have known it until you could see it, and by that point it's too late. So I just want everyone to know that I am aware of this. I was mentally prepared. I thought I was mentally prepared for it, but it blew my mind. And they will be on the track every 30 minutes, one direction or the other, from Monday through Friday,
That's right, they will. And
between
freight will-
4 a.m. and 1 a.m.
Yeah, well, 4:30, yeah.
I'm sorry. Between about 4 a.m.
Early.
We also talked about the freight train, Jane,
Yes.
using that same track.
Freight, that we have sidings, because the commuter rail trumps freight. But freight has to operate, it's commerce, right? So we have sidings at a lot of the stations, there's one at the depot, there elsewhere, so if a freight train needs to get off the tracks.
They
so
can
that
move
when-
over and
They can move over,
Yeah.
yep.
Very good. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you coming, and I'm glad that we got a chance to meet before it's actually took off the project. But it'd be very important, I think, to the public for maybe educating them. And I think we got the best in the business that's going to be for the public safety matter. So we're going to move on to number 2.
Should we make a
I'm sorry,
motion
number
to
4.
table this
Oh,
item
yes,
first?
I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead,
Motion to table,
Councilor.
please.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On item number 4, it's the Committee on Public Safety convened with a representative from the MBTA and any other interested parties to discuss potential solutions to reduce noise pollution in the Weaver Cove layover area. So I think what happened was there was a few people
Yes.
got asked a certain number of councilors. I think what's happening, is like my understanding is the trains that are in the layover are idling only in the wintertime. That's my guess,
Yeah,
because they have to.
I'm still tracking down the actual protocol for that.
Okay.
Because we have plug-ins at the layover, so cold weather, under 40 typically, they plug them in to keep the diesels warm. However, there's a threshold, and we went through a period of very, very cold nights, and they did idle them that night. They didn't tell us till we asked. So I'm trying to get the actual protocol. They've had to share this with a couple of other communities. We are, in fact, in the north, and we do get 10-degree nights.
Right.
And if that's something that people need to be prepared for, I think people need to be aware of it.
Right.
Because they were told,
Yep.
plug them in.
What is the noise level like? Because
It's, well.
I've only got an
in the middle of the
idea
night,
from the
when it's
residents.
quiet, it's a rumbling noise. It's just
Okay.
a rumble, and I bet you if everything else is super quiet, it's not white noise,
Right.
you know?
Most likely, if you know your parents' house where you grew up,
Yep.
you could hear from there.
Oh, okay.
Pretty clear, too.
Where the St. Vincent's was, on that North Main area.
Where, yeah,
Yeah.
on Langley and Robeson, you could
okay.
hear, because I can hear
Yeah.
from where I live.
Okay.
I could hear it
Really.
from the other end. I mean, you can hear,
Gotcha.
because it's the dead of the night, too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I apologize to everyone because I had no idea there was a threshold below which they would not plug them in for fear they wouldn't be warm enough.
Right.
And we only did that several nights, but of course it occurred over a weekend, was part of it, and people were annoyed. And thankfully it's winter, it's not summer where things are idling. We've had problems with some freight engines idling in other areas, and a lot of times they'll do that just because they're mechanically not in the best condition, and they're afraid to turn them off. But, that's also a polluting thing. You don't want that. You don't want the noise, you don't want the diesel fuel. On the other hand, I understand that for 3 hours on a super cold night, they may just have to idle.
Right. And then it's if you didn't do that, then it'd be a.
Train's not gonna run.
Exactly, right, right. So it's seasonal. They can expect it
Oh, it's totally
between.
seasonal, but the people, and I've actually, I've pinged them like 3 times. They have real language that they've shared with at least 2 other communities in the Commonwealth that explains what that threshold is. It may be slightly different if you're coastal, because of the dam, than, you know, interior, but, I still haven't heard back from them, so.
Okay.
Once I do, I will share, but I think you can count on 10 probably being legitimate number, and I would say, yeah, leave it on.
Right, okay. All right, well, are there any other questions?
Well,
All
thank
right.
you for your
Th-
time.
And again,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Jean. Thank you, we appreciate everything you're doing here.
I have to tell you, it's been really a pleasure working with the city. You know, really, even through times that weren't so great, like when we were doing the clearing of the trees and people were worried about habitat and things like that, people were so reasonable, they asked the right questions. If it was elevated to, at the city level, your level, for example, or state rep, we were treated beautifully, and I have to say, I appreciate that.
But that's definitely been a constant, another coming down from east, going through Easton and in that area. During the early development,
Yep.
it was tied up, and, I mean, different, what route was it gonna take? and was it
Exactly,
people-
with
yeah.
65 alternatives at one
Right,
point.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again,
Oh,
Jean.
you're very welcome.
So-
You were able to do this.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I think we were able to address the second one, so I would make a motion to grant leave to withdraw.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any other motions
Motion.
to adjourn?
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting.
Very good, thank you.